Once upon a time, in a kingdom made of white marble and high expectations, there lived a princess named Elara. To the people of the kingdom, Elara was not just a princess. She was perfection personified. But if you were to ask the castle baker what the princess looked like, he would tell you she had cheeks as round and rosy as warm apples. If you asked the kingdom's general, he would swear she had eyes as sharp as steel and a jaw set with determination. And if you asked the visiting poets, they would weep and say she looked like the first light of dawn, soft and golden. They were all correct, and that was the problem. Princess Elara was born with a curse, though many called it a gift. Her face did not belong to her. Instead, her features shifted and shimmered like water to match the expectations of whoever was looking at her. She became exactly what everyone wanted her to be. To a sad child, she looked like a comforting mother. To a stern teacher, she looked like a disciplined student. She was everyone, and therefore, she was no one. For 18 years, Elara lived her life as a mirror. She never knew if her smile was her own, or if she was simply reflecting the joy someone else wanted to see. She felt like a ghost trapped inside a masterpiece, exhausting herself trying to hold 1,000 different shapes every single day. The breaking point came on the eve of the royal jubilee. The king had invited suitors from 7 neighbouring empires. Thousands of people gathered in the great hall, pressing against the velvet ropes, all desperate to catch a glimpse of the perfect princess. Elara stood on the balcony, looking down at the sea of faces. Instantly, her magic reacted. 1,000 expectations hit her at once. One person wanted a delicate beauty, another wanted a fierce warrior queen, another wanted a saint. Elara's face began to flicker violently. Her eyes shifted from blue to brown to green. Her hair lengthened and shortened in seconds. Her skin flushed and paled. It was an agony of transformation, a storm raging across her own skin. Terrified and dizzy, she covered her face with her hands and fled. She ran past the confused guards, out the heavy iron gates, and didn't stop until the marble roads turned to dirt, and the dirt turned to the thick, tangled roots of the Whisper Woods. The Whisper Woods were forbidden. They said monsters lived there, creatures that the light of the kingdom had forgotten. But Elara didn't care. She needed to be where there were no eyes to look at her. She ran until her silk dress was torn and her breath burned in her chest. Finally, deep in a grove where the trees were so old they blocked out the stars, she collapsed. For the first time in her life, she was alone. She waited. She waited for the familiar tingling sensation of her nose reshaping or her eyes changing colour. But nothing happened. The silence was heavy. "Is someone there?" a voice rumbled. It sounded like grinding stones. Elara scrambled back against a tree. Emerging from the shadows was a creature of immense size. It was a golem, carved from ancient moss-covered rock. It moved slowly, the earth shaking gently with each step. Elara instinctively straightened her posture. She prepared her face to transform. If this monster wanted a victim, she would look terrified. If it wanted a friend, she would look kind. She waited for the magic to tell her what to be, but the magic stayed silent. The golem turned its massive head toward her. Its eyes were not eyes at all, but smooth, uncarved stone. It was blind. "I hear your heart beating like a trapped bird," the golem said, sitting down with a heavy thud that sent leaves swirling. "You are loud, little thing." Elara touched her cheek. It felt cool and still. You cannot see me?" "I see the heat of the earth and the vibration of the roots," the golem grumbled gently. "I do not see faces. Faces are for those who need masks." For the next few weeks, Elara stayed with the golem whose name was Orog. It was the most peaceful time of her life. She helped him clear falling debris from the stream. He taught her which berries were sweet and which were sour. For the first time, she didn't have to be beautiful. She didn't have to be anything. One afternoon, while washing her face in a still pool of water, Elara decided to look at her reflection. She hadn't seen a mirror since she fled the castle. She wondered what she looked like when no one was expecting anything from her. She leaned over the water, and then she screamed. The scream tore through the quiet forest, sending birds scattering. Orog came crashing through the underbrush. "Little thing, what is it? Is it a wolf?" Elara was trembling, pointing at the water. Look at me." But Orog couldn't look. Elara stared into the pool. There was a neck and hair that floated like mist, but where her face should have been, there was nothing. It was a blank canvas, smooth, pale skin with no eyes, no nose, no mouth. Just a blur. The realization shattered her heart. The curse wasn't that she changed for others. The curse was that she had no self at all. Without someone else's gaze to define her, she did not exist. She curled into a ball, hiding the blank horror of her face in her knees. "I am nothing," she sobbed, though without a mouth the sound vibrated from her very soul. "I am just a reflection. I am empty." Orog sat beside her, his stone shoulder blocking the wind. He didn't offer empty comforts. He waited. "You are not empty," Orog rumbled deep in his chest. "You are kind. You move the heavy branches so the saplings can find light. You hum when the rain stops. You are fierce when you protect the squirrels from the hawk." Elara listened, her tears soaking into her dress. "You think you are your face," the golem continued. "But the face is just the curtain. The show is inside. Tell me, little thing, who are you? Not what do you look like. Who are you?" Elara sat up. The question hung in the air. Who was she? She started, her voice internal and shaky. "I am afraid." "Good," Orog said. "Fear is real. What else?" "I love the smell of wood smoke," she thought. "I hate the tight corsets of the court. I want to be brave." "Then be brave," Orog challenged. Elara closed her eyes, or where her eyes should have been. She focused not on what the world wanted, but on what she felt. She thought of her stubbornness. She thought of the time she secretly fed the stray cats in the castle kitchen. She thought of her sadness, her hope, her anger. She felt a strange heat in the center of her face. It wasn't the itching, fluid magic of the curse. It was a slow, painful burn, like clay being fired in a kiln. "I am Elara," she whispered. She leaned back over the water. Slowly, features began to emerge, not the perfect, symmetrical features of a princess. A nose that was slightly crooked, just like her grandfather's. Eyes that were grey, like the storm clouds she loved to watch. A mouth that wasn't smiling to please anyone, but set in a firm, thoughtful line. It wasn't a face that would launch 1,000 ships. It was simply a human face. Her face. She touched her new skin. It was solid. It didn't shift. Elara stayed in the woods for another season, learning to live in her own skin. But she knew she couldn't hide forever. Her kingdom was waiting, and a true queen does not run. When she finally returned to the castle gates, the guards barely recognized her. She wore a simple tunic made of woven vines, and her hair was wild. She walked into the great hall. The king and queen rushed forward, gasping. The courtiers whispered, the baker, the general, the poet. They all stared. And then, the magic tried to take hold. The general looked at her, wanting to see a warrior. The magic pulled at Elara's skin, trying to sharpen her jaw. But Elara stood firm. She remembered Orog. She remembered the cold water of the stream. She remembered that she was the girl who liked wood smoke and grey skies. "No," she said. She held onto her identity with an iron grip. The magic rippled, struggled, and then, for the first time ever, it shattered. The air shimmered as if a glass wall had broken. The general blinked. He didn't see a warrior. He saw a girl with a crooked nose and grey eyes. The poet looked, wanting a muse. He saw only Elara. Her face did not change. The hall fell silent. The perfection was gone. Standing there was just a young woman, flawed and real. Her mother, the queen, walked forward slowly. She reached out a trembling hand and touched Elara's cheek. "You look—" The queen started, confused. "I look like me," Elara said softly. The queen paused, looking deep into those grey eyes. She smiled, and tears filled her own eyes. "Yes," she whispered, "you are beautiful." Elara didn't need the validation, but she accepted the love. She ruled the kingdom not as a reflection of her people, but as their leader. She made decisions that not everyone liked, but they respected them because they knew exactly who was making them. And every year, on the first day of winter, the queen would disappear into the Whisper Woods with a basket of fresh berries to sit by a stone giant and tell him stories of a girl who finally found her face.